And we have to really understand what we believe, because that's crafted who we are. Now that we know who we are, let's start looking at what we believe that got us there to be that person. And we really have to go to where it started, because most likely we still have that same belief system that was installed in us when we were younger. Here's another important piece to this. The one person who has to trust you the most is yourself. You have to be able to believe yourself. Before you can ask others to trust you, you have to believe yourself, and the way to do that is to keep promises to yourself. What I'm going to talk about requires slides, because it's going to be a lot. All right, this is going to be a fire hose. But what if we were living a life that was dictated by other people and we didn't even know it? Is that possible? What I'm going to talk about today, how many people are familiar with the belief system? So a belief system, it's a set of rules that we live by. And these rules dictate things we do. And this is a belief system that was put into us by other people when we were younger. And it's probably still dictating exactly who we are today, a system we didn't even design. So when I say we're living our lives by other people's rules, it's probably true. So before we dig into this, I want to go over exactly how we can identify it, what it is, and then the steps we can do to change it. But before I do that, I always ask this one question whenever somebody gets up to talk, whether it's Jay, John, anybody. Why should I listen to this guy? Why should I listen to this gal? So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about myself and some of the things I've done so you can get a better idea of maybe this guy may know something or two. So when I first came to Florida, I worked in automobile sales. I worked at a dealership not too far from here. It's called Crown Auto Group. And I did that for the first year. After the second year, I went to the finance office, and then finally I went into fleet and commercial. I was part of leadership groups here in St. Petersburg. This in particular was Tampa Leadership Institute, or as we call it, TLI. I've hosted a couple fundraisers, a couple charity events. This was right over here at the Yacht Club. Been part of Toastmasters since 2015. One of the best groups that's probably ever existed in the state of Florida, right there. I once ran for political office. I've met some pretty cool people in my life, like seven-time Mr. Olympian Phil Heath. This here is a picture of Michael Jordan's personal trainer. I've put together and hosted volunteer organizations. This in particular is Habitat for Humanity. I've also done Ronald McDonald House, Homeless Emergency Project. I've participated in numerous events, such as speaking contests, international speech contests, things like that. An entrepreneur recently, a couple of years ago, moved his business from Texas to here, Florida. It's called Valuetainment. His name was Patrick Bet-David. And after he moved here, I became his advertising director. I was once married, and now I'm divorced. I'm a dad, so I do have a child. I started not one, but two businesses. Both failed, and I'm working on my third. I've been a little rough around the edges at times, and I've learned how to kind of smooth them out a little bit. And likewise, there was a time I had hair. Now I don't have hair. Now there are some things in there such as, bouncing around in foster homes, spending 7.5 years in college, things like that. But I tell you this not to brag, but to really show who I am and what I've done. So I've done a few things in my life. I've experienced a few things. And I think that's important whenever we listen to somebody. We got to know, who are you? What have you done? Because if you've never been married, then I don't want you to talk to me about marriage. So before we jump into this, I want to go over a couple terms just to make sure we're on the same page. I think terms are important. First off is believe, or belief. And what this is, it's an acceptance that something or someone is true. So if you have a belief, you accept that whatever it is you believe, or whoever it is true. Next is faith. So faith is complete trust in something or someone. All right, so we have belief and we have faith. Now think about it. For those who believe in God, you have to first accept that He's real, that it's true, and then you have to have complete trust in that. So that's how belief and faith go together. I think too often, sometimes I've seen people mix the words up. They mean two different things. You can't have faith in something you don't believe. How can you? How can you have a complete trust in something you don't accept? So now that we've got that out of the way, all right, let's start. Let's start talking about this belief system. So the first thing that we're not going to be able to cover, but you can go really deep in this, but I wanted to at the very least make sure everybody's aware of this. I want you to really think and go inside your head and think about who you are. Who am I? And when I ask, who are you? Think about your job. Think about what you do on the weekends. Not a weekend here and there. There's a common thing I do on the weekends. What do I do in my spare time? What do I think about family? Because I don't think too often we sit down and we really think about that, who I am. We're just kind of going with the flow. We wake up, the alarm goes off, we just get ready for the day, we go out the door. I mean, do you think about getting in your car when you go to work or when you go somewhere? You're on autopilot. So if you've been on autopilot for 10, 15, 30, 40 years, have you really sat down and thought about who you are? I mean, I'll give you a perfect example of this. It's called midlife crisis. It's an identity crisis. And what happens is when you stop, probably sometime in your 40s, your late 30s, maybe even early 50s, and that's when it hits you. Oh, the heck's been going on for 30 years, right? Then you go into a crisis. Welcome to a midlife crisis. It's because you don't know who you are, or you don't like who you've become. Now that you've kind of thought about it, I would ask you guys afterward to really, whether it's waking up tomorrow morning, it's on the car ride home and somebody else is driving around, like think about that. Just start to think about it. You don't have to go deep. You don't have to spend 30 minutes. Just start the process. Just start. And then at some point you'll get really deep. Just like meditation is not easy for anybody who's tried it before. Anybody tried meditation before? Yeah, you don't get it on the first try, do you? Sometimes you don't get it on the 30th try and you have to try it a year later. But you do have to start. So now I want to get into our belief system. And we have to really understand what we believe because that's crafted who we are. Now that we know who we are, let's start looking at what we believe that got us there to be that person. And we really have to go to where it started because most likely we still have that same belief system that was installed in us when we were younger. And to really dig into that belief system, we have to go back to who. Who did we get our beliefs from? I have a 3-year-old and I like listening to this one guy. His name's Jim Rohn. He's Tony Robbins' mentor. And so I'll listen to it's in my mix of videos I'll listen to or whatever. And he has this one phrase he likes to say and he goes, of course. He says it a weird way. He's one of the only people who says it like that. Of course. So one morning, my little man comes out. It's a proud papa moment. He runs out. He goes and uses the bathroom by himself. Took down the pull-up, shimmied his way in the toilet, and he peed. I was like, yes, my little boy's going to move out soon. Hey. So I go up to him after he's done and all that. And he goes, Dad, go pee. I was like, my man. But I realized, I was like, did you flush the toilet? He goes, of course. Jumps down and runs in there. And I'm like, what just happened? Never heard that before. Later on in the day, hey, little man, Dad's going to get a freeze pop. You want one? Comes running out of his room. Of course. I'm like, oh, wow. He picked up on that. So whatever he's listening to right now, whatever I'm listening to is actually being installed. So he's catching what's out there. I'm not teaching it to him. He's catching it. So who in your life do you think was influential on your belief system? Anybody want to throw out some ideas? Mom, dad, parents, teachers. Who else? Coach. Come on. There's a lot more. Preachers. Yes. There's a big one. There's one big one we're all missing. Peers. So social media, yes, but our peers. Think about young children going to school. Everybody ever go to school, get made fun of by your peers? How powerful is that? Peers have a big influence on our belief system. Now that we know kind of who's creating this belief system for us, now you have to think about what did they believe, which is probably what you believe now. So let's think about it. We're thinking about who we are, who's had this influence on our life, and now we have to think about what they believe, because what's this going to do? This is going to tell us what most likely our current belief system is. Can anybody remember any phrases that their mom or dad used to say? Spit something out. There it is. Penny saved is a penny earned, right? Any other phrases parents used to say? Wash your, don't curse. So I want you to think about this. All of this belief system installed in us, it affects our morals, right and wrong. are based on what other people think if we didn't sit down and craft our own belief system. What about our values? Do you value family? Did you have your mom? Hey, it's Christmas, call your mom, or call your grandmother, call your grandfather, right? This affects and installs our belief system. Money, what are our thoughts on money? Where do we get that thought? Because we're not really taught it in school. Schools don't teach money at all. And unless you've upgraded that with knowledge, where did you get your beliefs about money? What about political views and self-worth? Who installed that in us? Did you create your own? Most likely somebody installed it in you. And God forbid if it's the news and social media. Peers. Peers is huge. Peers and parents. Your peers are so powerful, they can rip children away from their parents. That's how powerful peers are. So now that we've kind of got an idea, I want you guys to do this afterward. This is why I had to put it on the screen, because I can't just talk about it. I need you to see it too, so you'll retain it better. So think about who you are. Who are you today? Because now we can think about that belief system, our parents, where it came from, all of our friends, our neighborhoods, old neighborhoods we lived in, right? That's where I was in upstate New York, in Schenectady, and we lived in a really ghetto area. So what kind of mindset did I grow up with? Remember that picture, rough around the edges? Hello. That took a lot of work to get that away. Now that we know all of this, let's start making our own rules. What do you say? Yeah. Life by design, you're the designer. So if our belief system is the rule maker of what we do, I think we should start crafting a new one. So what I want to do is give everybody some tips of how we can do that. First thing we have to do is once we kind of know who we are, we have to think about the person we want to be, the type of person we want to become. I'll give you an example. I'll use a value. Integrity. If you want to be the type of person who's known for having high integrity and being honest, but you tell white lies, kind of gives you an idea that, man, if that's the type of person I want to be, I don't want to tell white lies. I want to be able to speak my truth, be who I am. Now you have an idea of a belief that you have to install, because this is the type of person you want to be. So we're going to start creating beliefs based off the type of person we want to be. You can't just take a belief that you want without knowing the type of person you want to become. Otherwise, you just start installing stuff and it could be all over the place, right? I like to shoot spear guns. Well, I don't want to be a spear fisherman, but I'm going to go out and buy a spear gun and I'm going to try it once in a while. And guess what? That's what we do. That's why we just kind of meander all over the place and never really get truly focused like John did. John wants to be a motivational speaker, and I can tell you right now, most of everything he does is geared toward that. Don't even listen to me, ask his family. Because we're going to create beliefs based on our actions, our values, and our language. What kind of language do we use? Do I use the words like can't, impossible a lot? It affects your beliefs. So when I was involved in politics, and I had to get out of it because I started to get deep, it gets really ugly. You start getting, people get very negative and very confrontational with each other when you go deep into politics. And you start hearing words like impossible and it can't be done. And for a while, it was like no matter who got elected, the other side was always like, this country's going to hell. And they truly believed that. And I was like, this country's not going to go to hell. I'm like, it's one person. Like there's 300 million other people. Like, it's just not going to happen, right? But they truly believe it. That was the language they used. This country's going to hell. Think about our beliefs as we're going to create them. Think about these. The actions, the values, and language that they use. And then write them down. If you write them down, you won't forget them. If you don't write them down, you will forget them. You'll forget them. And then you have to rethink it again. Here's the beauty of it. You write something down, it's not permanent. Even if it's ink, you just scratch it out, write it over again. But write it down, because you can't make a plan unless it's written down. So a plan, what does that mean? How do you write a plan for beliefs to become the person you want to become? I want to show you guys something I did. There's a gentleman named Andy Frisella, and he put together this program. It's called 75 Hard. And he puts it out there for free. You can go look this up. And so I did it myself. What does this plan look like? Well, these are days: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And these are the different things that I wanted to install based off what he put down. 45 minutes working inside, 45 minutes working outside, taking a picture every day, drinking a gallon of water, reading 10 pages, and adhering to a diet and sticking to it. Now that's a lot. And a lot of people do not make it through this. And I don't suggest this. This is not what I would suggest. I did this and I was already way further along than most people, and it's still hard. And if you're just like trying to lose weight and you're trying to do all this at one time, good luck. You will probably quit. You won't fail, you'll probably quit, which is the failure. So instead, here's what I suggest. First off, spend a week or two just becoming aware of your language and your actions. So when I was talking about thinking about who you are, look at the things you do. Just be aware. That's it. Just be aware. Be aware of the words that come out of your mouth. Does somebody come out with a new shirt and they're like, hey man, check this out. And you're like, dude, that looks like shit. Be aware that you just said that, right? Our words have power. Your belief that you don't want somebody to be better than you, and that's something that most men have in them. Most men want everybody to do well, just not better than them. Well, women too. That's true. Other than our kid, men are like that. Our kid is probably the only one we want to do better than us. So be aware of the language that comes out of your mouth. If you want to be the person who lifts up other people, who supports your friends, then be like, you know what? That shirt looks good, Anthony. I like it, dude. You know what? Probably not something I'd wear, but come on, man. V-neck, you rock that shit. Looking good, brother. Do that for a week or two. You just have to be aware. That's it. Just be aware. Second thing I would suggest is once you're kind of aware and we've written down these beliefs that we would like to do to become the person of who we decided earlier, take one action, just one. You want to get more fit? Start going outside and walking, right? Just go to the gym. You want to watch less Netflix? Then if you watch it on average an hour and a half a day, just cut off a half hour. That's it. And track it. So just like that, what I showed you earlier, instead of all 6, just track 1. And that way, if you miss 1, not a big deal, but just track that. Just 1. That's it. Just 1. You're on your way to becoming who you want to become. And the reason we do this is because it's all about taking one action, tracking it so we can build discipline and start building habits. Because what we have now is we have a belief system and we have habits based off this belief system. So in order for us to become the person we want to be, we have to change that whole paradigm. So just take one at a time, track it, and do it until it starts becoming a habit. Now, anybody who's into fitness will tell you, they didn't come out of the womb ready to work out. Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't. He didn't come out and say, let's get pumped up. He started doing it over time. And it's even harder. You know how they say, what is it? A leopard doesn't change her spots. Tiger doesn't change his stripes. Well, we're going to try to do that. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, we are. And that's why I'm saying do one at a time. How long do I do it? Do it until it starts becoming a habit. Do it to the point where if you do watch over an hour of Netflix a day, you feel guilty. If you miss 2 days in a row at the gym, you start to feel guilty. Because then, now you know your belief system is changing. Why? Because our belief system is a set of rules and there's a judge inside of us that judges us. And whenever we do something against our belief, he goes, Nadino. Come on, man. Come on, man. Sit on the couch. You know better. You don't work out. Stop. Sit down on the couch. Grab the remote. Let's do this. I'm excited. But if you do that and all of a sudden it's like, hey, man, you should be going to the gym. You ain't gonna be watching this shit. You've watched 1 million hours of TV in your life. Now you know it's becoming a habit because the judge is now reading the new rule set that you created. Once you start getting that habit, take another action, start building another habit. That's working toward that person you were before or that you wanted to become. Is this making sense, guys?
Yeah.
It's a lot of info, I know. Like I said, that's why I had to write it down.
Take notes.
Taking notes, my man. Now we're installing new habits. There's a great book, James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits. But again, this is the process. It comes from the belief system. Guys, I've spent 10 years doing this shit, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, all these famous quotes, all this. It's the belief system. It starts there. It starts there. Everything does. And if we don't change our belief system, we're not going to change. If I think Toastmasters is the biggest waste of time, and I believe that, even if I go to a meeting, no matter how damn good that meeting is, I'm not going to go again because I believe it's a waste of time. I have to change that belief before I can change. Here's the other beauty of it too. When we take action on anything, it starts building evidence that we're doing. We're doing the doing, and our confidence starts going up. Earlier, somebody said, fake it till you make it. I'll tell you why that shit is very hard to do. because you can't lie to yourself. No matter how many times you go in the mirror, I'm pretty today, I'm pretty today, I'm pretty today. And your breath's reeking up, your face is cringing from it. Yeah, and you look like shit. And you keep telling yourself you look pretty today. You know you don't look pretty. You think that shit's gonna fly? It's not. But if you do make yourself up, even if you're not feeling it, and you look in the mirror, I do look pretty good. I look all right. You start doing that enough, you start building up the evidence that you do look good. You go to the gym enough, you start building up the evidence that you are somebody who goes to the gym. Then you become somebody who doesn't miss the gym. Next thing you know, now you're a healthy person, you're a fit person. Because you believe that you have to go to the gym. Guys, you see how this is all kind of building upon itself? Nobody ever teaches us this shit in school. Nobody. My mom never knew it. You don't know what you don't know. And I wrote a little note in here. The evidence of doing the doing is so important. This is why people who go and like do all this online education, YouTube videos, all this shit, they never change. They don't. You can't just keep learning and do. You need evidence so that you can start believing yourself. It's the belief system. Remember belief? It's accepting something's true or someone's true. That's a belief. If you don't have evidence, you're not going to believe it's true. Guys, I'm telling you, this shit's wild. This is why affirmations don't work. It's like that mirror. I'm pretty today. I'm pretty today. You can do that 100 days in a row. And if you look like shit every time you're in that mirror, you're not going to believe it. Not going to change. Here's another important piece to this. The one person who has to trust you the most is yourself. You have to be able to believe yourself. Before you can ask others to trust you, you have to believe yourself. And the way to do that is to keep promises to yourself. I'll tell you a promise I broke to myself. All my life, since I've been young, I've been a nail biter. I've always bitten my nails. Can't stop. So 2 years ago, this is about 2 years ago, I said, I'm going to stop biting my nails. It was one of the hardest damn things I ever did. But I started telling myself, you know what? This is ridiculous. You're not a nail biter. Just stop. Just stop. So I stopped. Kinda. I still bite my thumbnails. And I just kind of like negotiated with myself. I'm like, well, not really fingers, they're thumbs. So not a big deal. But it really kind of started to irk on me. Because then I realized I was bullshitting myself. And so I started to let my thumbnails grow. Because every time I did that, I was feeling guilty. It's eating at me. Now I am truly not a nail biter. As of like 3 days ago. So keeping promises to yourself is important. It's a lot. I think right now we got to sum this up. I want to review the steps to installing new beliefs. These new beliefs are going to get us to who we really want to be. Because right now, I'm not saying we're bad people. I think we're pretty great people, but we could be better. And we could be more of the person we want to be. Maybe you were 7 years old and you're like, I want to be a fireman. Are you a fireman? No, you didn't do the shit the firemen do because your belief wasn't there. But if you want to be a fireman today, then you have to start taking those actions, those values, those morals. So let's review these steps to form new beliefs, because that is the book of law that dictates everything we do. It is your book of law, and you will not break your own laws. And when you do, shit like guilt and all that comes back, knock you right back into place. How do I know? See all that stuff I did earlier? Trust me. I know it will. It'll knock you back quick. So you have to install new laws that you live by. So let's review those steps. First one, you have to decide who you want to be. Yes, you have to know who you are, but you do have to decide the type of person or who you want to be. It's not necessarily, hey, I want to be a president of the United States. No, it's, I want to be somebody who loves their family. I want to be a great dad, a great mom. I want to be somebody who works hard. I want to be somebody who sees stuff through. I want to be somebody who doesn't procrastinate. That's what I mean when decide who you want to be. I want to be somebody who's physically fit. I want to be somebody who, man, people believe. Here's another one. I used to have the nickname Last Minute Hamill. I was late to everything. It was a joke. And then eventually I got to realize, I'm like, no, dude, that's not a joke. You're the joke. So I'm not late anymore. So I decided I wanted to be somebody who wasn't late anymore. And my wife at the time, she actually became somebody who didn't want to be late anymore. And then we started looking at other people who were late all the time and we're like, get it together, right? So decide who you want to be, the type of person you want to be. You have to write down your beliefs. They're not installed. You will forget them. You have to remember them all. So write them down, because if you don't write them down, you can't create that plan. So write down your beliefs, create a plan, start tracking it one at a time. Become aware of your current beliefs. Realize where they came from, who, what they are, and just pick one thing if you have to. What is my relationship with money? Become aware of your current beliefs. You can change them. And then take one action until it becomes a habit. That is so important. You will quit on that one action if you try other things. Just start building the evidence of the person you want to become. Just keep going with that. Build it, build it. Then start another. Do not start the other until you're finished with the first one. I'm telling you, you will know it. It's called internal guilt. That is our judge. Our internal guilt will be like, you know, you should have woken up early and given that speech. Before I leave it and hand it back off to Brad, just a couple things I want to finish off with. I call them be-awares. I don't normally call them be-awares. I just figured it was great for this slideshow. So it's 3 things. Be aware of your friends, family, and groups that you currently hang out with. Just be aware of them. You ever heard the expression, you are the 5 people you hang out with? Most likely they believe what you believe about money, about religion, about politics. If you want to change yourself and you start doing shit differently, they may not want to be around you or start criticizing you. That is the truth. Be aware of those people around you. If you have been wanting to change and if I want to quit smoking and I hang out with smokers, am I going to quit smoking? No. What's the first thing they tell you in AA? Stop hanging around people who drink. You can't change who you are if you're being influenced by other people, especially your peers. Anybody familiar with the term confirmation bias? Just be aware of this. That's all I'm saying. Be aware of it. It's a real thing. If you want to go to the gym, but you find yourself not going, guess what we do? We'll Google it. And it's like, ooh, did you know lifting heavy weights is bad on your joints? Oh, I did not know. That's good to know. Did you know that dropping a weight on your head can kill you? Oh my God, I don't want to die. Wow. Woo. Next thing you know, you start running into things that confirm your bias. Confirmation bias. Be aware of it. You can't get rid of it. Be aware of it. That's how you combat it. If you start coming into that and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I want to stop procrastination and this shit's trying to get me to procrastinate. Go away. Otherwise, it'll start confirming your bias. So just be aware. And then the last one, and this I think is very important. Be very clear about your whys. Your whys are everything. Why are you choosing to install these? Why are you believing this? Because when shit hits the fan and it gets hard, and in life, it gets hard. I'm looking at some of your faces right now and all those smiles disappeared. Something popped into your head. It gets hard. It's going to be our why that pulls us through. One of my big whys is my son. I mean, sometimes people can be real assholes. They can put in some real obstacles in your life, as Jay talked about. But when your why is strong enough, you're like, listen, I'm either going to go around you or through you, but one way or another, I'm getting to the other side. And it is our whys that'll carry us through that when it starts getting like that. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Again, thank you, John, for putting this together. It was a lot, but I hope you guys are able to pull something from this. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Appreciate it. My man, Brad.